Alright, we are in 4-low, front and rear lockers on, with the new steering booster installed, and with one finger I could turn with ease. Hey guys, Jason with Wolf Overland, and today I want to go over some off-roading stuff. So when you're air down and in 4-low, and especially if you have a front locker like on a Rubicon, you notice immediately if you're making a sharp turn and trying to get around a rock or object or something like that, your steering wheel does not turn. Especially air down with bigger tires like 37s, and you really got to work the muscles up to turn the steering wheel because it cuts out quick. And I had rotator cuff surgery on my left shoulder about 6 weeks ago, so I'm still in recovery mode, and I'm about to embark on a 6,000 mile trip out west to Colorado, Montana, all that stuff. So like, subscribe, follow along if you want to follow that adventure with me. So if you have a Gladiator or a Jeep JL, you want this kit. This is a Apex steering booster kit. So it includes a cooler for your power steering fluid and a valve that's adjustable that goes into your power steering pump. Most cars have a electronic pump that's built into the steering column, at least on Hondas, that's how we do it. But Jeep has one that's built directly on the frame rail that still uses a hydraulic fluid for the gearbox, but instead of running off the drive belt, it's got an electric pump on it that pushes the fluid, whereas in the Honda ones is like a direct drive onto the steering column and it moves it that way. We're going to install it. Let me show you how all that works together. It's a really cool system, so let's dive into it. All right guys, we are installing the Apex off-road power steering cooler slash booster. What this does, and I'm sure if you've ever off-roaded and you're air down in 4-low, especially if you have your front locker on, it is next to impossible to turn that steering wheel. Basically, the cooling system for the steering isn't up to par. So this allows you to put a cooler in and a booster that goes in the valve for the electric power steering that allows more pressure and offset by the cooling that it's going to offer. So let's get this in, and for reference, I have a 2022 Eco Diesel Jeep Gladiator Rubicon. Alright, I'm using the AMSOIL Synthetic Power Steering Fluid, and I poured some of it into the cap of it because I'm prepping the cooler for install. So there's a rubber O-ring on the nipple that goes into here, and what you want to do is soak it with power steering fluid and then install it onto here. So it does take 7 foot-pounds, which is like nothing, using an 18 millimeter deep well socket. So we're going to prep that and then put on, kind of slide that together loosely so we can install that later. And we're just going to prep that. You can see where it bolts up onto the frame rail. So we're just going to prep this out of the way. Alright, on the Eco Diesel at least, the power steering pump is right here. So bolts here, 2 on the other side. I believe that this is the port, or maybe it's on the inside. Let's see here. Well, no coming back. This being my first install, took me about 6 hours to properly install it. I feel if I do it again, it will take closer to about 3 to 4 hours to do it right. So it does come, I haven't done the pump yet, but it does come with a valve for the pump that increases the pressure. And when you increase pressure, you increase heat. So as you can see, There is no room in here with this sway bar disconnect up in here, but we did add a cooler that comes with the kit. And what I did basically was I removed the metal bash plate. I undid the fenders and kind of pulled them up out of the way, because this right here is the electronic power steering pump. Normal power steering pumps run off of a drive belt, but this one runs off power. So it does have fluid that moves the actual gearbox, which sits over here on the other side of the frame rail. So it does have electronic fluid that goes through it, which is basically a super high synthetic power steering fluid. So what we did is we cut this soft line that comes off of here, that comes off the gearbox as a soft line. It's basically the return line from the gearbox back to the reservoir is what we're basically had to cut out. So we took the old one out and we installed their supplied T-in right here. I did upgrade these clamps to like the turbo style ones that clamp better, even though this is a low pressure side. So I just, you know me, make sure nothing's rubbing, nothing's gonna burst. So we, you do cut that with a razor, the factory one, then you install the aftermarket hose, which comes down here to the cooler. So after the cooler, it's gonna go back up to the power steering reservoir. So I still have to put the hose on that nipple, go up to the reservoir. And here we have the high pressure line right here, which goes back to the pump. I'm sorry, the gearbox goes back to the gearbox. So at this point, we got to take the two bolts out here and undo the electrical connectors, and I'm going to see if I can pull the pump out right here and service the port, and then put it all back together. So we are done on this side. I can put this side all back together, but it's easier to fold the fender up just to have access to all this stuff, especially on the diesel model. And then this is probably the worst model to do it on, because the diesel you already have less room, and on the Rubicon you have the sway bar disconnect in the way, and on the diesel, yeah, it's just, there's no room in this thing. So we're gonna put this side back together, we're gonna lower it down and put the pump, put the line to the other side, and then deal with the pump. And we'll leave all this off for now. So yeah, for fluid I'm using the AMSOIL Synthetic power steering fluid. Apex does recommend, they do have a recommendations of either the Mopar, the CHF, or the Redline, but they said just make sure that you do use a high quality synthetic power steering fluid. AMSOIL does recommend this synthetic power steering fluid for this Jeep, so we're gonna go with that. All right, so I was able to pull the pump out through the sidewall here and put it rest it on here, and this is your pressure port, which this little piece is what you don't want to lose. I used a pair of tweezers to get it in. This is the new one supplied with the new spring from the kit, and we're gonna put some grease on it like shown and put it back together. All right, we just finished bleeding the booster. I got a lot to clean up and put back together, but when I first started it up and bled it back and forth, it took about a bottle and a half of steering. But when I bled it back and forth, and then we checked it, it was hard to turn the steering wheel. At full lock, it was about 500 PSI. We probably adjusted it 4 or 5 times, a quarter time at a time. But now at full lock, it's right under 2,000. It's like 1,800 PSI. So we're gonna take the restrictor plate and the gauge back off and put the factory highline pressure back on and button her up. So here's the underside. We got the power steering cooler that we added on. This just replaces the return line from the gearbox. So from the gearbox over here, the fluid goes through here to cool off. and goes right back up to the pump. That right there is an electronic power steering pump for the Gladiator and the Wrangler. And that shiny new part on there is the new valve that you can adjust with the 5mm hex and increase the pressure of the fluid. So it's got a new valve in there, and it's already adjusted to about 1800 psi is what I set mine to. You go as high as 2300. And I am running the Tailgate steering stabilizer on here. Metal Croak front axle disconnect skid, AEB diff covers. This is the Colorado, I believe it's the Colorado Mountain Off-Road skid plate. I didn't want to get a full set of skid plates because the Rubicon model already comes with the exhaust skid, a metal fuel tank skid, and this transfer case slash diesel fuel filter skid right here is asked for. They're out of Israel, I believe, but this one's aluminum, but it's pretty thick. But the reason why I got it was because the plastic skid right here for the diesel fuel filter is prone to breaking. So it does come with the metal skid on it already, and it's still in there, but this is just added protection, as well as added protection for the transfer case right here. We do have the AEB rear skid plate down there. That is a diff skid, and we have the AEB diff cover on the back there too. But these are nice. Slide this over a rock and you don't mess the bolt up. All right, we are in 4-low, front rear lockers on, with the new steering booster installed, and with one finger I could turn with ease. So me having a bad shoulder, you know, the wheels are kicking because obviously we're locked. The ability to turn with one hand is a lot nicer. It is a pain to install this kit, but it is definitely worth it if you're like me and you struggle in 4-low, air down, you know, like 37 with bigger tires where the steering can't keep up and it's hard to, you know, you gotta, it literally like feels like it shuts off. Yeah, the Apex steering boost kit is definitely a modification you want to do. I really enjoy it. All right, guys, I've been driving around for a couple days now, and having this steering is so awesome. No problems with it overheating. It's been doing really good in 4-low, just around my test track. Obviously, we'll have to test the long term of it, which we will in the following weeks. But yeah, the Apex steering booster system is the way to go. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks, guys. Links in the descriptions below too as well. See ya.